And as soon as we often think about things we want to achieve and we have these big goals, big, hairy, audacious goals, I think often they're called, our mind straight away goes into what I would call defense mode. And it thinks of all the reasons, yeah, but we can't do these things. So think back to being a child. And my son, I remember when he was under 10 years old, he used to love running around the garden, make believe. He would make things with his Lego sets. His imagination would run wild because guess what? Not many people had told him by then, you can't do that. Nobody had taken away and stolen those dreams from him. And I think that's a really magical place to be. So how can we take ourselves back to those sort of places and start believing and dreaming bigger about our own lives? You know, as life goes on, when we get older and older, thinking back to my son from being 10, we get told you can't more and more and more. But unless we actually embrace that and change that phrasing in our head as to how we hear it and see it, we're always going to be held back by those fears, our frustrations, and being told in our heads and by other people that we can't. But what if we could? Where would it actually take us? So let me actually ask you a question. So what I want to ask you is, what would you attempt if you knew you couldn't fail? Think about that. If you knew you couldn't fail anything, what is it you'd actually set your goals and dreams to be? How big a goal, how big a dream would you really have if you didn't think that failure was perhaps an option? And it makes you think, doesn't it? You think, actually, what would you do? What would we all do? What would we like to try? What experiences we want to have? What would we want to do in our business lives? What we want to happen in our personal lives as well? How would we want to run our lives? What would our ideal and perfect life actually look like? You see, back in 2009, I actually wrote a list of goals, and that list of goals is here. Now, down the list of goals that I had here, I had a lifetime I gave myself to actually achieve these goals. And what's interesting is that here I am some, 11, 12 years later, I've actually achieved all of them. Now, I'm not saying that to show off and be clever, but I'm telling you so that you think that no matter how scary or how big or bold some of these goals can actually be that you might want in life, they're more achievable than what you think they are. But guess what? Your head keeps telling you in your head, but you can't, but you can't. But I'm here today to tell you that you can. So I want to ask you, what is it from your point of view? What is your superpower? So imagine if you had anything that you actually wanted to have in your world. And I've studied this as well. And I want to give you some insights to share with you from lots of personal experiences that you can recognize that when you don't think you can or being told that you can't, that is your secret superpower. And a bit like Superman, you open your shirt up and you can go and you can conquer anything that you actually want to do. And I'm going to share you lots of these principles with you today to hopefully accelerate you and give you the superpower that we all have inside us. And we can break this down, into several different areas. See, I look at this as Superman. Superman himself, he was invincible. Superman was my superhero when I was younger. He could fly around the world and make the world change direction. He could do all sorts of things. Above all, he would always win. He went into battle and he always won in the end. I believe that we are all superheroes if we actually want to be. But the downfall of Superman, he had just this one thing. His nemesis. Now, his nemesis was something called kryptonite, which is a fictional sort of crystal that used to appear green and pulsing in all the films that he had. And we too have got our own version of the kryptonite if we choose to actually use it. So what is our kryptonite? Well, our kryptonite is this. It's not having the goals, not knowing where we're actually heading. It's the laziness. You see, we don't have to do anything. We don't have to change. We don't want to always change. But I would propose to you that we're all here for a reason. MDRT wants everyone to grow and be better versions of ourselves. You're here listening to this presentation. So something intrigues you about also improving. So the laziness can often hold us back from doing that. No time. We often find we don't have the time, supposedly, to do the things that are important to us. Another bit of kryptonite is our education. We don't think we know enough yet, or we're not skilled enough, or we're not maybe as bright as other people are. But above all, the biggest bit of kryptonite that we all have is our very own fears.